My name is Marc Meade, and you're listening to the Motivated Mindset Podcast with Bobby Stein.
Perfect. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Well, hello and welcome into another episode of the Motivated Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Bobby Stein. I hope that wherever you're watching or listening today that you're doing absolutely fantastic. And today, I'm extremely fortunate enough to speak to a new friend. He's an entrepreneur. He's a leader of people. He's the host of his own podcast, the Speak Life podcast, and I'm anxious to learn what all motivates his mindset. His name is Marc Meade. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Marc, my friend, how are you? My new friend.
I'm doing amazing, Bobby. Thank you for having me on.
That's my good pleasure. It's my good. So you're a Jersey guy, right?
Yes, sir. Jersey thick and through.
Born and bred.
Yes, sir.
Northern, Southern, Central. I don't know if they've got a Central Jersey now, but
they do. They do have a Central Jersey. I'm from Northern Jersey, probably 25 minutes outside of New York City. Born and raised in South Orange, New Jersey.
Okay.
So love New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm from Southern New Jersey.
You are?
So I've been down in Florida since 1999, but the children are still back there. Two live in South Jersey, one lives in South Philly. So that makes me an Eagles fan. I presume that you're a Giants fan or a Jets fan.
Florida, because that tan's working.
Hey, thanks for noticing. I appreciate it. I work long and hard with that. In fact, I got a dermatologist appointment tomorrow because I got stuff cropping up. But aside from that, Mrs. Lincoln, the play was fantastic. You're not a Giants fan, but who do you don't tell me the Patriots or the Cowboys are out to end the call.
That's why I'm asking what part of Florida you're from.
Southwest Florida.
Okay, Southwest. Okay.
Naples, Bonita Springs on the Gulf Coast.
Miami Dolphins fan.
Oh, that's not hateful though. I mean, so you I don't know. I don't know what you're.
That's super lovable. Aqua and orange.
And I don't know
more than that.
I don't know how what your age is, but you had. I'm from that era with. Okay,
so 44. So I was probably 1988 with the fake spike game, or 19 something around there. I think it was 88 or 92. I can't remember, but it was probably 88. I was at home. My brother was a Jets fan. I'm watching the game. And he fake spikes it, and it was just this huge, back then there wasn't that much, news syndication. So that's one of the biggest stories of the day. And I don't know how long that story lasted, but it was enough for me to, one, go against my brother, and two, become a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, carried over to 2025. I'm from the era of Jim Kick, Larry Zonka, Mercury Morris, Paul Warfield, Gary Apremium, all those guys.
I know those guys from John Madden.
From Madden football, yeah.
The 72 Dolphins.
The 72 Dolphins. Are you an athlete yourself? Did you play sports in school, or?
Yeah, I played football. That's probably the only sport I did anything.
Gotcha.
Well, just through high school. I didn't play college ball.
That's okay. I never went to college, so don't hold it against me. But when did you take me back to the beginning when you were a youngster? When you found that you got that like entrepreneurial spirit, when did that ever click in? What led up to that? What were your interests as a youngster, and how did you get into that field?
Yes. So, I grew up with, at the time it was 4 brothers and a sister. So it was 6 of us as I was growing up. And so, we lived in a decent community, but we were really as paycheck to paycheck as you could possibly be, and so I learned early on if anything was gonna ever happen, it was gonna be because I did something about it. And I think it started to spark my interest in just the idea behind starting a business. And my first business, like a lot of young kids, was a lemonade stand. I was 9 years old, and I didn't understand any of the concepts, but I just knew it was hot. I wanted to get out there, and I wanted to kind of generate my own money. And I don't think I was thinking that clearly then, but I started a lemonade stand. I remember buying Country Time lemonade, the nice, silver can that it's in. And I remember making a fresh batch and going outside and putting 25 cents on my sign and selling it to people who went by. And my first day, I sold $10 worth of lemonade. So I came inside and I spoke to my dad and I said, I made $10. And he said, well, how much did the lemonade cost? And I said, it was $4. He goes, well, then you made $6. And I said, aha. And so that was the first time I realized that, it costs money to make money. Now that itch, really just kind of started moving because I went from one product to a cross-sell lemonade stand. I decided I was going to go get Pillsbury cookies, bake those, put 2 in a bag, 50 cents. Now I'm selling a cup of lemonade for $0.25 and cookies for 50 cents. What was, what I could do with just 25 cents, now I can do with 75 cents. And I started making a little bit more money. And I realized, this is cool. I think it started with, this is cool. And very quickly I got into, selling candy in middle school. My brother would take me to a corner store. I would buy candy for 10 cents. And I would sell it for 25 cents the very next day. So $4 worth of candy equaled $10. And Bobby, as I went through the day, I could sell out of $4 worth of candy by noon.
Yeah.
Well, $5 equaled $12 in sales. $6 equaled $15 in sales. That's the markup. And so right around 6 was where the cost of diminishing returns hit. Because when I got to $15 or when I got to $7 to try to make $18, there was something that took place. The bag that the candy was in was rummaged through so much that by the end of the day, the boxes looked beat up, the wrappers looked a little torn, and nobody wanted to buy. Or they wanted to buy it at discount. And so I realized that at $6, 60 pieces of candy was what I could successfully move throughout the course of a day, and people would just, flock. As I got older, that's a little bit of money. So my sister was dancing at the Dance Theater of Harlem in New York. So I would go with my mother to take her to dance classes. I'd go to 125th Street and I start buying clothes. And I bought them and I brought them back and sold them to my friends' parents for them. And so what I would do is I would buy, once I realized what bulk buying was, and I could get dollar discounts at different prices. I was a full-blown businessman at that point. I'm rolling in with wads of cash to make deals, and I'm walking around the store negotiating, trying to see how many more pairs of jeans or shirts or sweaters or hats can I add to shave another $1 off the price or to shave another $2 off the price. And I'm 12, 13 years old. So
wow,
there was a major itch that never really left and kept growing as a young entrepreneur.
I like how you found the sweet spot at 6 before the diminishing return. It was like something's going wrong here, but you were keen enough to identify it and know that that's the sweet spot. No pun intended, right? Selling candy. I love the fact too that with the clothing, that the parents were actually seeking you out, and moreover, that you knew that there was price points that if you could find another, a couple items to keep it down or save $1 or $2, that went into your pocket. So that's brilliant. You moved in.
Sought the parents out first.
What's it? Would say what?
I would go uptown with orders ready for me, like how many I needed to buy, because I would ask, what are they doing? Like, what are you doing for this one's jeans or that one's jeans, and how many what would be nice? And I would market it as that way, and then go uptown with buying power because I had the stuff pre-sold.
See, pre-selling is key. I mean, you learn that at an early age. You're not necessarily selling it; they're kind of coming to you and making the purchase. And
100%.
Wow, that's awesome. You graduate or you matriculate. I mean, eventually, from the little research that I could find, Mark, that you moved into the financial world itself, correct? Into insurance and some
mortgages as a loan officer at age 24. So I started doing that. I was a loan officer for about 8 years, and then I got into insurance. The two kind of kissed each other, and I got into insurance at about age 31, 32. And that was kind of where, I mean, my 20s was about me getting my rear end handed to me, if we're being really honest. And
hardcore education. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And so from there, by the time I got to insurance, I felt like I was extremely ready for a real opportunity.
Well, there was that time, right? I mean, there was seed time and harvest. So you had paid your dues, but along the way, you were a vigilant student, and you paid attention so that you could roll into that, and you kind of fielded many of the objections and had qualified answers, et cetera. So the mortgage and the insurance company, I watched something with you, Mark. It was pretty intriguing. You were going through your background, talking about how you're a wordsmith. And how you had kind of a sarcastic bent about it. You would make commentary to your friends, and I'd really like you to elaborate for those that don't know the story, because I find it intriguing, because it took you from point A, really moved you into now where you're point B. Share that with me if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's the seeds of Speak Life. That's the seeds of Speak Life.
Yeah.
This communicator who saw the worst in the situation, and I could tear down a situation because I had the view of a pessimistic person and the speech of a pessimistic person, and so tearing people down was more gratifying to me by a large stretch than building people up. That wasn't really even part of my deal. It was just kind of sarcasm and cutting, right? And so I kind of developed this reputation that I wasn't excited about the older I was getting. And I was like, all right, well, what is this going to be like? How much more can I pour on here and still think that I'm going to have friends or still think that, people are going to want to hang around me. And so, I kind of got that revelation and started trying to, change. If you're one way for so long, or if you're so far left, you don't just turn and go right. There literally is a process that you kind of have to put yourself through that allows for you to mature, educate yourself, grow, see, oh, I just did that. I got to stop doing that. Oh, I did it again. And you have to kind of catch yourself. You're training yourself to move in a different direction. It's not as simple as, woo, we're rolling. And so I had to become I had to start looking at the glass half full. I had to start speaking positively. I had to start speaking life. And so that's what kind of sparked the whole idea around that. And Speak Life was just a concept in my brain that lived there. That was a changing moment in my life once I could put the right words to it. Speak life. And I had a prophecy that was prophesied over me by a pastor who basically said, look, you have the gift of words, you have the ability to communicate, but you're no longer going to use this gift to tear people down. You're no longer going to use this gift for destruction. You're going to use it for construction. You're going to use it to build. You're going to use it as a gift to build people. You're going to become a builder of people. And man, if that thing didn't pierce me in half, and you're going to be an equiper of people. You're going to use your words to pull the best out of people. And that was my entire insurance career. Just this, it played itself out big time, and just building people up. And this was the accelerator. That was the gas that I had already had the revelation in my 20s. I got that prophecy in my early 30s. And I had already worked through a lot of that. And so as he was prophesying, I'm like, how do you know this?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, stop.
Get out of my head.
I'm not laughing at the outcome because I hadn't lived that outcome yet. Right. The builder of people, the equiper of people, the gift of, I haven't lived that part out yet. I lived
Yeah.
out the negative. I'm like, how do you know that part? But I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
whatever. All right. So I'm laughing. I'm like, and the positive part wasn't lived out yet, but that was the future. That was the mandate. That was where I was going. And so when I think about that prophecy now, it's now in the rear view. Not that doesn't have legs still, but I see now 2 decades of that prophecy that lives out,
Yeah.
from the destructive guy with the gift of gab to the builder with the guy with the gift of gab. And so
Yeah.
that's a heart, that one pulls on the heartstrings a little bit there, Bobby, because it shapes who I am and who I'm still becoming.
That's outstanding. I know, if I could share a quick story with you. Prior to me moving to Florida, I attended a church in Philadelphia in the Germantown section with a pastor. And it was Africa. It was a black church. I was the only white guy. But how I found this church was, I'm in sales, Mark, and I'm listening to anything motivational that I can possibly find. And I dial into this radio station. It's an AM station in Camden, New Jersey.
Mm.
It's from 7 a.m. to 7:15 in the morning, and it's an impacting your world message. And this pastor, Ray Bernard, great guy. You remind me a lot of him. And he says, if you want to buy a tape of this episode, they did things on cassette tape. He says, send me your mailing address. I'll send you the cassette. Well, I found out the location of the church, and I went over to the church. And I wander in, and sure enough, I find him, and I buy up all these tapes, and we become fast friends. Well, I start teaching for him, and just getting up and speaking a word and things of that nature. We're sitting in a service one evening. It was like a Thursday night or something, and a prophetic a prophet comes in, and there's probably 15, 20 of us in the audience, and he's just. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, is this stuff for real? There's a heart of, my heart's not really buying into it, right, till I walked up to the guy on stage, and he sat me down, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, you have a gift for teaching, so on and so forth. And it was recorded on a cassette tape. So I took that cassette with me after the fact, after I was really tipped over about it, because that's really what floats my boat, is to like inspire people much like yourself. And the tape broke at some point, and I wish I still had it. But the moral of the story was, I moved to Florida for a business opportunity in 1999, and I went to the church and I visited him, and we're up speaking together on stage, and I kind of tell him, and he takes the mic from me, and he whispers in my ear, he says, Bobby, you know what your mission and your calling is? What are you going to go sell drywall for in Southwest Florida?
Wow. And
I'll wrap it up with this, because it isn't the Bobby Stein show, but 10 years go by, and I'm down here in Florida, and I have this itch to call him. And so I call the ministry. They say, Pastor Ray and his wife's on vacation. I said, oh man, that stinks. I said, where's he vacationing? He says, oh, he's down in Naples, Florida. Oh. I said, get out of here. So they give me his cell phone, because he had changed it. I call him. We meet for dinner, and I said, I want to get into. We reconnect, and he said, why don't you? I said, I really want to teach. He says, well, you're anointed to teach. He said, that's what you're supposed to do. What are you friggin' waiting for? Like he really let me have it, and yeah, I mean accountable, right? Yeah. And sure enough, I went and I formulated a class at an adult education high school, and taught the class for a number of years. It was a lot of fun. But I like what you said about getting back to you, Mark, and thanks for entertaining that. Getting back to this about that, when you say you made a mind shift to go from the destructive to the constructive, I can almost envision it like you want to make that turn like you're on a jet ski real fast, but it was like the Titanic. And you got to steer the Titanic, or a big ocean liner a little bit at a time to make that turn, right? Yeah. So
I just made that analogy with the tariffs. I'm like, how do you can't turn this thing like a jet ski?
Oh, did you?
Titanic. I just took the jet ski part from you, but I did take the Titanic part, and I was like,
Oh,
it
really? That's too funny.
feels like we're trying to move this thing, and it's actually the Titanic. I don't want to go too far into that, but that
No, I'm with you. I totally hear you. You know, you sound like a kind of guy that feeds his mind not with the rabbit hole stuff, but with good stuff. Speaking of which, you're oh, by the way, I am speaking with Marc Meade, Speak Life podcast. You can find Marc over on the LinkedIn platform, the Instagram platform. Check him out. Follow along. Look at his posts. I think they're insightful. You'll be glad you did. You can glean some good insights. But you mentioned on an Instagram post, Marc, something about Jim Rohn. I saw him in person. He was fantastic.
wow.
And you quote scripture in terms of, you know, things of the nature, life and death are in the power of the tongue. Elaborate on that, because I think it's so true.
Yeah, I mean, back to the Speak Life origin, or even just the fact that, like, you could be in the middle of trying to do something good, and your mind can get a hold of you, or your tongue can get a hold of you, and you can start saying things that don't equate to the thing you're trying to do. That's good. And it will deter, because you're not giving it life. It's not like, we almost need positivity and encouragement to thrive. Because if you find yourself around just death talk all day long, you're going to die. And whether you die emotionally, whether you die spiritually, whether you die mentally, you're going to die. And so you've got to, the power of life and death is definitely in the tongue. And so, again, it's I don't say it's easy, because the subconscious is rolling with about 70% negative thoughts daily. Imagine, like, just you're thinking something great, and then boom, it just gets arrested. And the rest, you're pushing through every day. That's why you got to speak to yourself. You got to speak to that thing, and you got to speak life to it, because if not, it's coming for you. Your dreams are not easy to reach. Your dreams are not even easy to speak about. You got to ascertain. You have to grab a hold of it, and you have to almost choke it, because there's a lot of things that are coming to choke you, to get you to release your dreams and not grab a hold of them, or not take them at the speed or thought process in which you thought them up. And so this is big time in the way I think, because it's too simple, Bobby, to just for the day to go by and none of the things you wanted to do happened. It's too simple for the week to go by. You start piling this stuff up, man, and you got a ship full of dead things.
Exactly.
And that happens, but we got to find the light. We got to find the life in the things that are alive, and breathe on them nonstop.
Stoke them.
And be around people that will breathe on them with you. And you have to fight for that in life. You really, really, really do, because it's easy to find the other stuff.
Yeah, it's too easy. I think that's the what we're born into, the prince of the air, as it were, and we are programmed, and it is so easy. It's so default. You can just sit on the couch, watch Netflix, the commercials, everything is set up for the opposite. So if you want it, I like how you say you got to really hunt it down, track it down, choke it out, and speak. But you know what? The other thing is, Marc, we're talking incessantly in between our two ears, as easily as we breathe and need food. I mean, it's a nonstop dialogue from birth to death. I mean, it behooves us to take control of those words and speak life. And those words manifest into real, to tangible evidence.
Facts. I know
Amen.
that sounds hokey. People don't want to believe
I,
that.
I know that's
And
true.
Bobby, if you're on the side where you're getting, you're, you know, getting your teeth kicked in on a day-to-day basis, or you weren't born with any advantages and you're, trying to fight your way for everything, for education, to get to school, to get home from school, to make it to a ball club or make it on a ball team, or even have the proper sneakers, cleats, whatever it is, to even perform at the levels that some people are just blessed to have. That's hard to do.
Yes, it is.
That's hard to do. And so it's easier to just like mail it in. It's actually easier. So I commend the fighters out there, because grabbing a hold of something and blocking out the noise and going after it is hard. But the ones that do it and do it at the levels that dreams are made of,
Yeah.
those are the ones, those are the legends. Those are the people that we talk about for decades.
Yeah. Yeah. I think who we surround ourselves with, Mark, is, you touched on it. I think it's key. Like attracts like, birds of a feather flock together, and misery loves company. You can name all the, all those things, but it takes a certain amount of individual. I liken it to a rocket that's escaping the Earth's atmosphere. It takes fully 90% of its thrust and pressure to pierce the atmosphere. But once it's pierced, then it uses that other 10% of the energy to toggle around and look around and explore. But there is that barrier. And if we can, let people know that it is in fact pierceable, penetrable, that's the ideal mission. And I commend you for your word and your ministry and your business. You're an you're a builder of people. I love that. I love that. You say you committed to a new calling and chart a new path with a single mission, and that is to serve the people. Explain to the audience how you serve the people. How do you go about that? And what does it mean to you?
Well, it starts with, me knowing service really well. My love language is acts of service. I went to culinary arts school. I was, involved in hospitality for a good portion of my life. My first real job was washing dishes in the kitchen somewhere. And so I followed and tracked this career in hospitality, culinary arts, which really put me in a position to realize, like, the guest is what matters, right? And so when I think about service, I think about exceeding expectations and, really giving it my all. And that translates. It's not just in the restaurant business. That translates to business. That translates to my marriage. That translates to my relationship with my kids. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I'm saying that skill translates over exceeding expectations and out-servicing who you're working with. And so that's how Serve the People started. Started with really not knowing what that level of service could mean in business at scale. And I got a word from God when I was on vacation and I was just kind of chilling in the hot tub. I kind of get in the hot tub to decompress and to meet with God,
Yeah.
And I guess I think my second day in the hot tub, and I'm just kind of, and I think I'm just grooving. I think I'm just kind of getting in a groove, and all of a sudden, like thunderous, serve the people, and I'm in this, and I'm just like, it was like one of those kind of bone chilling, but I'm like, almost like, what people?
Yeah.
I'm in the insurance business. I got a team of like 9 people.
Yeah.
I'm meeting with clients, what have you, and 4 seconds later, serve the people. Just reached my head, and I'm like, wow! Like it was like so loud that I knew it had to have something bigger than just. Why would that happen 2 times in a row within a 5-second time frame? And so I just kind of harnessed that and realized, like, hey, I really don't know what this means, but I was talking to one of my mentors, and he was like, if you do that, you'll have one of the biggest life insurance agencies out there. And so I took that with me into business, and realized like if we put the people first and we take care of their needs first, we're going to be all right. And I did that at scale and really started to learn the nuances of service and the nuances of out service and the nuances of exceeding expectations and the nuances of just acts of service and putting people first and helping them realize it's like my man Jim Rohn says, if you can help, is that Zig Ziglar? That's Ziggy Ziggs. If you
Zig.
can help everyone get what they're looking for, you will get what you're looking for. And so
Absolutely.
that just became a thing. And it snowballed into this thing that, it became a mantra. Serve the People became a mantra before it became a company. And so
I love that.
the company followed.
I love that. I like the thing. One of the fellas, either Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, or Zig, says that you can get. It's better to get rich at the service of someone rather than at the expense of someone.
It's huge.
There's that saying too, Mark. I'm sure you're familiar with. If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go a long distance, you go with many.
Yeah.
And we're all in this soup together, right? And whether many of us may not know we're in the same soup, but in actuality we are. And being from the culinary background, some of us are potatoes, some of us are carrots, but we got to make that proper blend.
Right.
And I'm super stoked for that. So yeah, Speak Life. I love that term and the mission behind it and the drive. So are you still in the insurance industry with a team of folks around?
Absolutely. We've got agents all over the country, thousands of agents. Been in that business now over 13 years, and we're servicing people every day, recruiting, developing, training. We fly out to see people. We got an agency doing over $100 million in sales every year. And it's just,
wow.
Kind of realizing the people game at scale is, I realize this, the people who are in this just for the money can't build it really, really big, right? You just can't. Because if you're in it just for the money, at some point it's just about you, and people can smell that.
Yeah.
But the people who can serve and are selfless, they're going to build it big because people want to be a part of that. They don't care that guy's getting paid and getting, building his family because he's helping them build theirs.
It's not a competition at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's service at that point.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, I know, my brother, that we could talk mindset stuff and these quotes and everything all day, but I really like how it circles back to service. Regardless of what game you're in, folks. Okay. If you're in, hospitality, if you're in a construction industry, insurance, whatever it might be, put the people first. Like you said, we just touched on once again, you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you really want to go far and make an impact and a difference, go and serve and do it with a group of people. And that's how you achieve your goal. And Mark, it sounds like you do that for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. In spite of the fact that you're a Dolphins fan. That's all right. They're in the AFC. I won't hold it against you. I'm an Eagles fan.
Out one day. Well, congratulations to you and your Super Bowl.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was waiting for that.
I have Saquon Barkley on my fantasy team. I'm very happy for him.
Oh, he's a beast. Gosh.
So good. I can't believe it. I can't believe people slept on him. That's cool.
I cannot. He was 7 seasons up there. They just didn't utilize him. They never put a line in front of him. And
it's crazy. I was saying that because Christian McCaffrey was killing it as in the same time frame that Saquon wasn't getting the kind of love I thought he should be getting. I'm like, I promise you this guy is either CMC or better. I'm not going to discount CMC, but I promise you this guy is, and these guys, nah, man, he's done. Okay. All right. Well, eat it.
Well, he had that. Exactly. He had that knee injury and it was pretty horrific, but he comes from a fighter background. He's a boxer. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that. And he's just so resilient in his spirit. And I love him when, we had the opportunity a couple different times during the end of the season. He could have broke one for, what's that?
I know the story, but I don't know if he's going to get another chance to do that. And I don't think it would have affected him or his teammates.
I'm with you. Just be selfish for a hot minute, man. Just on my behalf, be selfish.
Service talk. And
right out the window.
The way he handled himself, he got a new contract. You got to give him credit, man. Anyway, so
he's a rock star.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And so are you, folks. Mark, you are definitely a rock star, and I appreciate you visiting with me today. Once again, folks, please check out Marc Meade. If you're interested in the insurance business or that field, how, Mark, do we get a hold of you? Is there a specific web page that folks can visit?
Yeah, absolutely. You can email me at Marc at M-A-R-C at FFLtristate.com, and you can DM me on Instagram, Marc J. Meade. I'm on LinkedIn as Marc. Everything I'm on as Marc J. Meade. So you can find me on any platform from, TikTok to Facebook.
Outstanding.
I'm on as Marc J. Meade, but reach out to me. I'd love to get you on the phone and figure out how we can work together and help you, kind of get where you want to go in life.
Well, there you go. Opportunity doesn't come knocking all the time, folks. But if you're so inclined, reach out, like Marc mentions, at one of those sites, and I'm sure you'll be glad you did. You'll be mentored properly and trained up properly, and you'll be serving the masses as well as serving your own selfishness. So it's all good. It's a win-win-win situation. Am I right, Marc?
It's just selfishness. That's two people.
All righty, guys. Well, folks, that's a wrap in another episode of the Motivated Mindset Podcast. And if you'd like to follow along with Marc and his journey, check him out. Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, over at his webpage. Great offerings. Get mentored. Get into a new industry. If you've got a desire to make a shift or anything along those lines, Marc's made his entire career out of that, and I'm sure he's got some pearls of wisdom that he could share with you. He is, after all, a wordsmith. And Marc, I really appreciate you taking the time today, my brother.
Thanks, Bobby, for having me on. I appreciate it. You have a great platform here, and
thank you.
I love your mindset. I love your approach, and I appreciate you having me on, buddy.
Wow, it's my good pleasure, and thanks for those kind words. Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your ear holes. And until next time, please take good care. Marc, thanks, my brother.
You've been listening to another episode of the Motivated Mindset Podcast with your host, Bobby Stein. Thank you for tuning in.